Well, hi guys, hopefully this finds you very well. My name's Paul, this is Plan Zed, and welcome to my little workbench here, where this is a part 2 of my little deep dive. There's going to be loads of parts on effects and drives and fuzzes and different things as we go on this little journey. Now in the part 1 we were looking at EQ and an approach to how I'm setting up my Tonex, and now I want to fine tune that, and I'm trying a different strategy to yesterday. Before I show you that, let's hear the Tele. We're on the neck pickup. It's got my new EQ set, a hall reverb. We've got a compressor at the front of the chain. We're going to be in this view for this video because I want to get across a few concepts that I'm going to be talking about over the next few videos when we're in GT-1000 setting screen, where the focus will be very much looking at the patches individually. I use my GT-1000 in manual mode, which means when I press this button that isn't lit, that has just gone blue at the edge of the screen there, this screen here changes and I get access to these buttons on the bottom row. In this patch, I've got the Tonex set up using only an instrument cable out of the left mono, but I'm using a divide to get my dual mono. Using a different effects block, EQ block each side, just to shape the tone ever so slightly differently to help my stereo spread along. A different reverb here. If you're in headphones. Sounding nice. Let's try that cloud one from a couple of videos back. The guitar is cutting through the reverbs lovely. The highs are nice and balanced. We're on the Tele, so it should be quite, there's a lot of highs there to manage in the digital realm. The lows are nice. Let's change the flavour of that slightly. Okay, what we're going to do now is go back to the patch from yesterday where there's no compressors, nothing is on. I want to tell you how I've solved my little low end problem and how you might be able to too if you're not quite keen on, you're getting there with the Tonex, but it's not quite 100% yet. I've figured out a little juggling trick we need to do. So in this session, we don't have any blocks on, only a little bit of noise suppression at the front and the Tonex in a send return here. I covered how that's set up in the last video. I'll leave it in the link description below. Now on the Tonex, just so we're aware, we've got the depth and the presence at 50, the treble is at 50, as is the mids. My gain is on 55 because I haven't done the update, and I've got my input trim on -9. I have the output from the global settings on -6. Okay, but as I say, I covered that in a previous video. I'm now wasting time telling you again. So, but we'll stop waffling. Now, the strategy is to use the bass knob to obviously remove the bass without touching the depth or the presence. I want to brighten up my tone, and where I've ended up is being able to bump the level of this patch from yesterday. It was on a level of 50, I think. Today it's on a level of 55. The trebles on all these patches, we're going to hear lots of different amps in a minute, is set to 4K. It's flat, remember here. The mids in this patch are at 3.8, but wherever I get the bite, I'm moving this frequency around. Even though the knob is at 50, it changes the flavour of things. And I don't know if it's cutting or boosting, because obviously as it's cutting, there'll be frequencies either side of that that will appear louder. So I'm not quite sure what it's doing. So I'll move it around until it's in a place where I quite like the sound of it without touching the actual mids knob itself. The Q here, I've moved that into 1.6 from 1.3. It affected the tone. And now here with the bass, where I've ended up changing the strategy here is what I want to explain. With the bass knob yesterday, I was coming down to about 0, 10, maybe 20 on this knob here. At the moment, I've got it on 30, and I've brought the cut up to 210, and where I'm floating around on every patch now is between 210 and 255, the next one along, usually keeping the bass knob somewhere between 20 and 30. This one, okay, let's put it back on 30 so we're green. Okay, so what I'm doing is there's lows that get added. What I noticed is when I bypass the Tonex, which I'm not going to do now because I need to adjust the input level, the output level here is to get true bypass. The conversion creates some bass and we lose some articulation, okay? I've not noticed that with anything else I've put my GT-1000 other than some of the Line6 gear. Now, at the front of the chain here, what can be a good idea with modelers is to take some of the excess bass out, but I want to try and keep my fundamentals. So what I've done is I've put a parametric EQ now, just after the noise suppression, but before the Tonex, so it's before everything else that follows it, and I'm just done a low cut there to 80 Hertz. So I'm going to... What I'm going to do is just turn that off again. Listen to the highs as I run up the notes. So without it. So it's brought the highs out because the really low frequencies that we don't really need are masking those frequencies as we go into the Tonex. Okay, so we're taking those out there. Now we've done that, we can change the strategy slightly with the EQ that comes afterwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that off. Just going to save the patch so it's definitely off. So yesterday, now that we know this, the mistake I made yesterday, if I go to yesterday, is I overcompensated in the EQ. This piece of paper is the piece of paper from yesterday and looks like my brain feels. What I'm now doing, actually before we do that, let's just... So to overcompensate, that's without any EQ. The arse falls out of the tone. So I had a couple of bashes at it, and I changed how, obviously, I'm doing it. So now it sounds like this. So let's just go from the no comp and EQ, loads of lows. Lovely, that sounds really nice and open. I haven't really done anything but manage a little bit of low end here, as I told you, and put 2 EQ blocks now. So we've got the one at the front that I told you about and 2 EQ blocks at the end of the chain, where on the first page I'm going 0, 0, 0. 250 Hertz has gone to a Q of 2 now rather than a Q of 1, minus 3 dB. Taking the 500 Hertz out here on a Q of 8 minus 3. So I've been able to lose that cut I was doing at 160 and tighten up the 250 region, okay? The low cut now, I've brought that up from 100 Hertz to 125 Hertz. Now, if you followed me for a while, you know I commonly have my cut there. I've been running an experiment to try and get the best out of this Tonex. And I'm finding I'm liking these results. So here in the next EQ block, and this next EQ block's different because I've used these three, I've got a spare. And we're going to talk about that spare in the stereo patch because here I will shape the mids upper mids, sorry, and the highs slightly differently to help my stereo spread out. Okay, so but in this patch, we've got the low and the high gain are left on 0. We're gain staging here with a level of +3, taking out 3 dB on a Q of 8 of 2.5K, so the same as yesterday. As is the 4K Q of 8 -6. And then here the high cut is at 10K. Okay, so that's what happened there. Really like the impact. Now let's go a few. Here's the Maz. Now here the Maz is a bit brighter. It's a different shape. It's a 110. So I've got the a 112 cabinet. So I've got the bass here at 210. The bass knob on 30. But if I remember right, I didn't need bite in this patch. We've got the Q on 1.6. When we're boosting, we want to be boosting 1.3, 1.6, something like that. But here I've brought the mids right down to the 750. As I say, I don't know if it's cutting or boosting, but I preferred how the tone sat when that was there. Here's that generic Fender one, the one with all the lows and highs, no mids. Now this one, the mids are on 1K. The bass is at 255. Remember, this one is bassier. It's at 255, and yeah, we're at 30 again. Let's try a Marshall now. Yeah, that feels so much better than yesterday. Wow. So here the bass is on 255. We're at 30. The mids are up at 250. So that's the JTM50. Let's try the JTM45, which should have a lot more bass, which it does. Mid frequencies, we're still up, getting the bite up in that region, but here 255 feels like the bass is at 20 there. Let's pull that back a bit. I'm just going to save that. I might be able to now. Now I've done that, I might be able to give it some more level. Just one was enough to do it. Okay, so it's very small moves at this point now. You don't need to make these wild moves to get off the ground and run in. Now we've got the EQ understood. Do I need to just pull that bass back a bit? Actually, let's just check. Before I do that, I just want to check the level here. Just going to pull that back by 1. Try a bit more gain now. We're still on the neck pickup. Lovely. So, let's put a compressor on this, see what it does to the tone. What we don't want it to do is squish it. We just want it to help us get some consistency in a mix. Remember, I'm going to be layering guitars, so these steps are all steps that are going to help me get separation and a nice clean mix. So in the first one, we're going to... Hang on. We've got the soft compressor that I spoke to you about yesterday. Let's go between the two. So for me, that's attenuating the highs and the lows and just giving the tone a hug, not really changing the tone, but just attenuating those lows and highs. That's quite nice. But there I've got some nice bite. Let's try the New York style compressor, where I've got the compressor in a divide. Now this one's a very subtle compressor. We should feel very little difference or hear very little difference. Just a little bit more fullness. I don't know if that's going to come across on YouTube. We shouldn't really lose any level. When you're playing it is where you're really going to feel it. The New York style compressor is, we've got, excuse my messy bit of paper here. We've got a divide where we've got an A and B channel. We've got a compressor set up here with the settings of 50, 0, 50. So this is sustain 50, attack 0, so a fast attack. The level on 50, tone on 0, 4:1 ratio, no dry mix because the dry mix is in this channel here. And then at the mixer, I'm at a level of 99 for the dry and 5 for the compressor. Now, if you want more of the compressor, play around with that mix. Remember, when you bring the compressor up in the mixer, you're going to need to balance that by bringing down the main dry signal. Just bring it in till you're feeling it under your fingers and the thumb, and that's your sweet spot. So the other compressor is the 1.6:1, where we're using a soft style of compression. So we've got a 39 on the sustain. The attack is very, very slow. So on 100 here, remember these are opposites. 0 is fast, 100 is slow. The level is the same at 50. The tone is the same at 0. But we've got a 1.6:1 ratio and none of the dry mix coming through. Quite important there. I think there's a phasing issue with these. We'll discuss that in another video. So let's go from there and land on a patch where we've got try a different flavor of reverb. We've got a compressor on here. Let's turn that off. Now remember here, I haven't boosted anything yet. Let's try. Actually, what we might do, what's the time? We've got about a couple of minutes before we hit 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try a very quick loop where we're going to start out with the Maz, but I'm going to use only the wet signal. It's not going to be like a performance video. We're just going to layer some loops, see how they sound, hopefully not make any mistakes. I'm going to come in on the next round. Nice. Let's stay on the Maz, go to a basic patch. I'm just going to add a bit of room reverb. Compressor. Send my audio off to the left. Take the compressor off, put on a tube screamer. Let's boost that. We've put a clean clone boost after the tube screamer. try a slightly different style of loop. We're going to go back to the mass. We're going to stick some wet effects on it. We're going to stick compressor on. We're going to go back to my dry patch. We're going to try that joke out. Let's change the direction of the audio, stick some room reverb on. Go to the back pickup. Not going to get too distracted with the fact that I messed up my loop slightly there. Putting a tube screamer on. GT-1000. Just put on a reverb with some effects on it. Let's see how this sits. Something else, Supro. Right, this one I've got the gain. What I'm going to do is just pull that gain back a touch. clean boost. Okay, so we've looked at that. That was easy. So, lovely. What we're going to do is in the next session, I think we're going to take one of these patches where I've got set up 3 different distortion blocks, and we'll start looking at boosts and fuzzes and different things through different amps and how they respond and how they sound, which ones work in the digital realm for us using a Boss and a ToneX here, which ones don't. Hopefully, when I hear that audio back, I'm going to hear that and go, yeah, I can sing over that. Yeah, okay, let's see how we get on. It's taken ages, isn't it? But yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.